Hello and welcome to the Daily Bible Podcast. My name is William Hemsworth. As always, it is my honor to be here with you today, and thank you for joining me on this journey through the Bible. Today we're continuing on through the Gospel of Matthew. We're still in chapter 2. And today we're going to talk about Matthew chapter 2, verse 15, which is a continuation of 14, of course, when Joseph has a dream and he takes Jesus and Mary into Egypt. And verse 15 starts off and says, "And remained there," the Holy Family remained there, "until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet," which says, quote, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." So a couple things on this. As I've said before, earlier in previous shows of this podcast, Matthew has many links to the Old Testament. This is about one of 50 links, and it links to the Exodus account in the book of Exodus, where the Israelites were in Egypt and God called them out of Egypt back in the Old Testament. It's kind of a linkage to that. And the prophecy that's directly cited here is Hosea chapter 11, verse 1, which refers to God's calling his son, Israel out of Egypt in Exodus. We could see, I know I just said that, but that could be seen in Exodus chapter 4, verses 22 and 23. So Matthew means that the history of God's redemption of Israel points towards Jesus, which of course, as we know, is the true Son of God. When Israel left Egypt, its fidelity as God's Son was tested for 40 years in the wilderness. The nation of Israel has a history of following God closely, falling away, following God closely, and falling away. Jesus is later tested in the wilderness for 40 days. We see that just before he starts his public ministry. But he's faithful in his test and proves that he is the true Son of God. So, kind of interesting correlations there. And just one other thought. The Old Testament verse here, like I said, Hosea chapter 1, before the time of Jesus, referred to God's calling the nation of Israel out of Egypt in the time of Moses. But as we know, the New Testament writers were under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, and so Matthew applied it to Jesus. And so we see the history of Israel kind of playing out again, but this time in the life of Jesus, which later on in the Gospel of Matthew calls him the new Moses. Kind of just a little interesting link there. And so just as God led the nation of Israel out of Egypt, God will call Jesus out of Egypt. So just a couple thoughts on that one verse. Hope everyone has a great day today. Hope you see the links between the Old and New Testament. I think those are just always important to see. We have this tendency to read them independently of each other, when the Bible, it's all about Jesus. It's all about salvation history. There's a lot of links in there that we kind of take for granted. And when we realize them, we see that this was God's plan the whole time. And it just makes the story that much more greater. Well, guys, have a great day. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and we'll see you tomorrow.